Hi friends, and welcome to episode 8 of the FibreBound Podcast. My name is Alexandra and I am coming to you today from Adelaide, Australia, where I live with my husband and my 2 teenage sons and our lovable dog Shorty. And it is Sunday the 16th of May today, and it is the afternoon, and I thought I'd sit down and finally record an episode for you all. It has been around 3 weeks since I recorded last. It's been a rather busy few weeks, so I just haven't had a chance to sit down, to set up, to talk to you for a little while. So I've got a little bit to show you today. This is predominantly a knitting podcast. Sometimes I will share some crochet or other projects with you, but today's episode is full of knitting. You can find me online as FibreBound on Instagram and as Alipay on Ravelry. You will also find a Ravelry group for this podcast, and I will link that down below. That is where we are currently hosting our first make-along. It is the Whip Down Cal 2021. I'll pop the hashtag down below for you all. Basically, the rules are very simple. Just work on your whips throughout. I think I started it in April, so April and May. And in the first podcast of June, I will pull some winners from that make-along from both Instagram and the Ravelry thread. So I'm loving seeing the projects that you're inspired to work on. It has been really lovely to see some of the varied projects that have been finished already. And it's really fun to follow along with you all on both of those platforms. On the Ravelry group, I'm trying not to comment because I don't want to confuse the posts and then the decision around who will win. So I'm not commenting, but please do know that I am reading each one of those posts, and it is really fun to see what you're all working on. There are also quite a few entries on Instagram with the hashtag, so that has been really fun to see those pop up and follow along with your makes and be inspired to pick up my own. So today I actually do have a number of finished objects, one of which is one of my oldest whips, which fits, I guess, the parameters of the Whip Down Cal 2021, but I'm obviously not entering, so I haven't hashtagged that on Instagram or anything, but I will show you that today. I've got 3 finished objects actually. I have a pair of socks, a sweater and a shawl. Like, how does that even happen? Well, I guess that happens when you don't podcast for 3 weeks and you knit a lot. So I do have 3 finished objects to share with you, and then a number of new cast-ons that I don't think I've shared before. So let's get into the knitting. Okay, so let's get into the finished objects. My first finished object today is the elephant in the room. It is what I am wearing. So this is my newest sweater. It is a pattern test that I have completed this last week or so for Jen Steingass of Knit Love Wool. I don't think this pattern has a name yet. It hasn't been released, so it is still pending, and I'm yet to know what it is called. Once I know what this sweater is called, I will make sure that I link that down below. But in the meantime, I do have a Ravelry project page for this project, and that will be linked for you as well to show you the yarns that I've used and the size that I've made. And once the pattern is released, I'll be sure to link that up to the official pattern. This is my first fingering weight sweater, and it is only my second colourwork sweater that I've made. So I am really excited that I was able to finish this within the time frame for the test period. I think I knit it in just under a month. And I made it long sleeved, which I'll stand up and I'll show you in a minute because it is a little tight in here. I don't have much room to stand up to show you much detail. But there is, sorry if I tap the microphone, there is this beautiful colourwork section up here. It's knit top down starting at the collar. The colour work continues up until the sleeve separation, and then it is just stockinette in the round until you reach the length stipulated, and then there's a 1x1 rib at the bottom, which has turned out quite neat. And the sleeves are, there are some decreases along the sleeves. This is a paid for, or will be a paid for pattern, so I don't want to give too much away about it. Let me get settled. So I don't want to give too much away about it, but essentially I decided to knit the long sleeved version. I do understand that the pattern will be offered in both short and long sleeve options, being a fingering weight sweater. However, I do find that this is, even though it's fingering weight, it's still very toasty and very lovely. I knit this in some Australian wool that I picked up from some local to me dyers. So the main colour, I've talked about this in previous episodes, but it's by Finch Yarns. It's a local to me dyer, or they are local to me dyers, in the colour Waft. And then the contrast colour, the darker blue there, is by the Seventh Girl, and it is the colour Nellie Bly. So the base I used for this sweater is an 85% merino, 15% nylon. Both of the colourways, both of the dyers have used the same base, so I was really happy to be able to match that up. And both of the bases had 400 metres to 100 grams. I used, I think, 2.5 skeins of the main colour and just under half a skein of the contrast colour for my third size that I knit. There are quite a number of sizes in this pattern. It is very size inclusive. So once it is released, I do encourage you to check it out. And like I said, I will link down below what that pattern is once it is released. I knit this sweater on the recommended needles. I did neat gauge. There were 3 needles used for various sections. So there was one size used for the cast on portion. Then there was another, I think it was a 3.75 millimeter used for the body. And then there was a 3.5, I believe, for the cuff. So I did neat gauge, and I'm really happy with the fit. I think it's absolutely perfect. I actually wore this on Mother's Day. I was so excited to finish it a couple of days before Mother's Day, and I steam blocked it so that it would dry faster and I could wear it on Mother's Day. And I was so excited to wear it, and I had it on and we went out for breakfast, and then for some morning tea with my mum and my lovely sister, and I got chocolate on my sweater. So I came home that afternoon and ended up washing it. So I basically wet blocked it after it had been steam blocked, and had a little bit of a concerning moment when it grew significantly while it was wet. But I didn't pin it out. I left it flat on my drying mat, and I was really happy once it dried that it seemed to get back into its shape. So I do highly recommend, if you are concerned that your sweater has grown while you're washing it, be very gentle with it and lay it out flat to dry. Just don't pin it out if you don't want it to stay that size, and it should come back in nicely for you. And this fits me perfectly. At one point I thought the sleeves would end up being past my fingers. It seemed that to stretch out so much, but they really are the exact length that they need to be. So I was very happy with how that worked out. And I think that's all I need to tell you about this sweater, but that was my little panicked moment of washing it and having a worry that it had stretched, which luckily it hadn't, because I love this item. I am so happy with how it has knit up. I really adore the way that the yarn looks. I don't generally gravitate towards blues in my wardrobe, or certainly not in my yarn choices. I don't tend to buy a lot of blue yarn, so this was an absolute joy to knit, and the colour just makes me so happy. It's a bit of a tonal, I guess, but it's got a little bit of variation there in the yarn color, but it's distributed so beautifully. Now, that's one thing I should mention. I did alternate skeins throughout the body, but I didn't necessarily do it for the sleeves. I figured it's a smaller circumference, and I just wanted to see how it would knit up. And it's actually really knit up very equally between the two sleeves. What I tend to try to do is always make sure that I leave enough yarn from the yoke to cast on sleeves with. I don't like the idea of having a line if you add a different ball of yarn that looks very different from the yoke. So I do always make sure that I start my sleeves with the yarn that I used for the yoke. And then if I need to bring in a second ball or a third ball, then I will alternate for a short while before I just continue on with the new ball. So I'm really happy with how that worked out, and I highly recommend this pattern. If you've never knit a Jennifer Steingass pattern before, go out and treat yourself, whether it's this pattern or one of her others. They are so well written. She provides so much information that is so helpful to any knitter, whether you're experienced or not. And I just found this such a relaxing knit, given that it was a test knit. There were obviously a few things that we needed to feed back throughout the process, but as a general rule, it was just a beautifully written pattern, even in the testing stage. So I can only imagine how amazing it will be once it is released. So this is my test knit for Jennifer Steingass, and my first finished object for today, and I love it. My second finished object are my April socks. Now, this is the first time I am recording since May started, so I did finish these in time to meet my knit-along requirements of knitting a pair of socks a month. So these were finished a couple of days before the end of April. So when I recorded last, I had finished the first sock and was down to almost that black stripe there on the second sock, and just had the rest of that toe section to go. For this pair of socks, I knit the 56 stitch size. I knit these on my 9-inch circulars by ChowGoo. I did 56 stitches, 2x2 rib, I think for around 20 rows. I think it ended up being a little bit more just because I wanted to get the colour repeat or stripe to be the next colour. And I basically knit the tube down until I hit the toe area, and then changed to magic loop for knitting the toe of each of the socks. And once I was done with both tubes, I ended up using the Kirby Werby true afterthought heel method to cut in afterthought heels. And I love how that looks with the self-striping yarn. I love that it hasn't interrupted the sequence of the stripes on the front of the sock, and it just makes me really happy. And I actually do quite enjoy the fit. I don't seem to be having an issue with the fit of the afterthought heel. I know some people prefer heel flap and gusset because it fits them better. I've not noticed that to be a huge problem for me lately, though I haven't tried these on yet. I wanted to show them to you before I wore them. But I think I did the same process for my February socks perhaps, or maybe March. No, I thought heel. February socks were stripy, and I used the same method for those, and I have worn them and they've been lovely to wear. I haven't had an issue. Now I do have a progress keeper on here that sort of showed me where I was up to, otherwise I forget. This progress keeper is by the Woolly Tangle. It's just a little llama that I think is backwards right now. There you are. So yeah, it's very cute. Little llama there. So yes, I am still on track to knit my pair of socks every month. So that was the 4th month done, and I love the way these knit up. Again, not my usual colour palette. I usually very much gravitate towards pinks. Lots of pinks, but I love how this worked up, and I love this colour. I can't wait to wear these socks now that I've shown them to you. I don't think there's anything else to say. I I've already said I knit them on 9-inch circulars, but I forgot to tell you which size needles. All of my socks pretty much are done on a US 1 or a 2.25mm needle, and these are no exception. So yes, that's my April socks. Those are my April socks. And my final finished object for this episode is something that I started in November last year. And I've talked about this, I feel like, pretty much every episode since the first one. Once I finished my test knit and didn't have that time pressure on me, I felt like I could focus a little bit more time on this lovely knit. And I haven't actually woven in the ends yet. I haven't blocked it because I bound it off late yesterday afternoon as we were driving to a friend's house. So it's literally just been bound off and not blocked or anything yet. I'll block it soon. Normally I tend to block before I show, but I can't not show you this. I've worked on it. So when I showed this to you last, it was here at this Progress Keeper. This Progress Keeper here is by Mo and Me, a local to me maker. It's a little wine glass, and this is my drifter shawl, all finished. So I have mentioned in the past that I was knitting this with my friend Krista. We were having an informal knit along together, and I will link the hashtags for you down below, or I'll pop them on the screen. Oh, and I can't wait to be able to wear this now that it's done, and I'm so happy with how it's knit up. Now this is knit up in Explorer Knits and Fibres. Again, I've talked about this so many times, so I do apologise to those of you who have heard this many times. Explorer Knits and Fibres Denali sock base. The green is Trastevere, should know this by now, and the orangey colour is called Roma. They are, I believe it's a 75-25 base. I knit this on a needle smaller than recommended because I was a little bit worried about potentially running out of yarn, and I basically did run out of my Trastevere, and this had to adjust the pattern slightly, so there should be another 2 garter ridges here in the green, but I had less than a gram of that colour left. Kept it here for you, so this is all I have left, and less than a gram was not going to get me there and back again any more times, so I decided to then just start the orange colour 4 rows earlier. So I have an extra 2 garter ridges of the orange here that normally would have been the green as written in the pattern, but I don't think it really matters. I think it still looks amazing. I am really happy with how it looks, how the colours have knit up together. There's that beautiful tonality in both the green and the orange that make these colours just sing together and just look perfect, perfectly matched. This yarn was sent to me by my friend Krista as part of a bit of a swap that we did last year. I sent her some yarn as well. We made the decision to knit this pattern together. She lives in the United States of America and I'm here in Australia, so we've been checking in with each other through messages and FaceTime calls to sort of see where we're at with this knit and help each other through and just enjoy the process of knitting it together from the other side of the world. It's just been a little bit of fun for us. So I know Krista finished hers this week as well. She sent me a photo the other day. So we're very excited that they're done, and I think we're going to start planning our next knit along together. So that is my 3rd finished object for this episode, my final finished object for this episode, and it is the Drifter Shawl by Tammy Gore, because I potentially forgot to say that before. Once I finish recording today, my aim is to try to weave in those ends and get that blocking so that I can wear it this week. But we shall see. There's a lot of other things I want to get done today, and Sunday is disappearing rather quickly for me. Okay, so let's move into works in progress. My first work in progress is in a brand new project bag that arrived since I recorded last, and it is this gorgeous bag by So Crazy Crafter. It's a beautiful drawstring bag, and it's just the perfect size for a sock project. So in this bag is my first of my May socks, and here it is so far. So I have knit the heel flap and gusset, and I'm currently on the foot. I don't have much to go, I think, before I start the toe decreases. I knit them top down, so there's the cuff. And this pair is for my oldest son for his birthday coming up in August. I'm trying to be a bit more organized with this birthday. So this is a 64 stitch sock. He's growing up quite significantly. He'll be 17 in August, which shocks me every time I think about it. But it's a 64 stitch sock. I did a 2x2 rib as I usually do on a US 1 or 2.25mm needle. I have knit around, I think I did count, I think it's close to 60 stitches. Normally I count every 10 rows, but for some reason with this one I didn't do that. But I did mark here where I started the heel flap, so it's marked on the front and the back so that I can replicate that. When I get to the second sock, I do like my socks to match. So I've done a heel flap and gusset for this one, as I said before, and sort of testing out this option. So this is it's a 2-stripe repeat, but to me it's almost like a 4-stripe repeat because every second dark stripe is actually more of a charcoal rather than a black. So for me it's almost like a 4-stripe repeat. Whether it is intentional that way, I'm not sure. But I thought, well, with 4-stripe repeat perhaps I can get the heel flap and gusset done and then pick up without it having too much of an impact on the stripe sequence. And actually I think it's worked out quite perfectly. There is obviously a little bit of a wider stripe there and a thinner stripe there, but I think it still looks absolutely fine, and he's not going to care. He's going to love the socks regardless of the striping or the colours. He's very knit worthy and loves hand knit socks. So I love how this is knitting up and how this is working out. Now this is the colorway If They Kill Daryl. It is by Vista Dyeworks. It is her Viso base, and it is 462 yards per 100 grams and 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. So if you haven't watched my previous episodes, here is the tag. So it's Desert Vista Dyeworks. The colorway is If They Kill Daryl. Now I am knitting these socks, or these socks, there will be 2, as part of the 7th annual monthly, 7th annual monthly sock club. I'll link it down below. Which means that we knit a pair of socks once every month. We start sometime after the first of the month and make sure we finish by the last day of the month to keep that knit along going. And so this is my May pair of socks for that knit along. My aim is to have them both done by the end of this month, and then I will put them away and they'll be ready for an August birthday present. So that's the aim there. Oh, I just noticed I do have a progress keeper on here, so I'll show you that. It's a little dinosaur and it's by Obsession Yarns. I picked this up the last week or so. I thought it was really cute and fitting. When I think of my son as a little kid, like he's 17 now, so obviously very different these days, but when I think of him as a small boy, He was very much into the colour green and very much into dinosaurs. When I saw these stitch markers or progress keepers on the Obsession Yarns Etsy store page, I couldn't resist getting it to put on my son's project here. So I'll move that up to where I am today, and we'll show you the progress on the next episode. Maybe they'll be done by the next episode so I'll be recording probably in about 2 weeks, hopefully, and they should be done by then, both of them. So that is my first work in progress. My second work in progress is in this beautiful bag that I showed last episode by the Knitting Dentist, or Krista. I'll link her Etsy store down below. And this is housing another pair of socks that I am knitting with some leftover yarn. So it's like my Scrappy Sunday project, even though I'm not necessarily only working on it on Sundays. But here it is. You may recognize this colorway from my February socks. It is another Desert Vista Dyeworks yarn. It is in the colorway Zombody Loves You. And these are my leftover skeins, or it is my leftover skein split into 2 balls that I'm knitting 2 at a time for my niece for her birthday in June. So I am so grateful to each and every one of you who commented on my last episode. I asked in that one about children's sock sizing. My niece will be 6 in June. And I had so many wonderful recommendations in the last episode's comments, and I thank you all so much for taking the time to do that. The Rye by Tin Can Knits was a very popular suggestion. A lot of people also mentioned that they just knit tube socks for their young children just because they will grow with them a little bit better. So I've sort of combined both of those concepts and have decided I'm using the Rye child size here. It's a 52 stitch sock, I believe. I think I've gone 52 stitches, and I am actually going to knit the Magic Heel sock for these. So if you haven't seen the Magic Heels socks by the Autumn Acorn or Judy, I will link that pattern down below for you, but it is a really wonderful pattern. I knit that earlier this year for my 13-year-old son's birthday, having the concern that he might grow out of those socks sooner rather than later. So it does give you an alternative to putting a specific heel in the sock, and you can have a heel area that's quite a lot longer to help with the growth of the foot. So I haven't quite started on the heel part yet. I think I'll do another stripe maybe before I do that. I'm kind of playing it by ear here. But these socks will be for my niece for her birthday in June, and I am loving knitting on them. They're so cute. And I know a lot of people love to knit 2 at a time socks, and I've had a lot of recommendations from viewers and friends on Instagram about 2 at a time, and it's been such a long time since I've done it, but I love the fact that I've got 2 socks at the same point, and it is really very easy to knit on them each, especially when the balls of yarn are separated. The first time I ever knit 2 at a time socks on one needle, I did come into the issue that I was knitting it from one ball, so I was pulling from the center for one sock and pulling from the outside for the other sock, and ended up getting a crazy tangle of yarn and yarn bath, and so that scarred me a little bit, and I hadn't really been keen to try it again. So I had these balls already separated because when I did my February socks, I knit them concurrently from the 2 separate balls. I had split my balls up, or my skein up. And yeah, it's working really well. I do highly recommend that if you are keen on just, if you struggle with second sock syndrome, which I don't generally do, but I do want these done pretty quickly for my niece, I thought I'd give it a go. And I am enjoying the process of these 2 at a time socks. So if you don't like second socks, if you struggle to cast on your second socks, give this a try. I am knitting these, as I do with all of my projects pretty much, on Chalgoo needles, red lace. For this 2 at a time pair, I am using a 40-inch cable. I normally use a 32 for my magic loop, but it's just nice to have the little bit of extra length when there's 2 socks on the needles, even though these socks are so teeny tiny that I probably would have been fine with a 32-inch cord. But I am quite enjoying knitting it in that fashion. So I'm looking forward to showing you these once they're done. And my final work in progress today is living in another Knitting Dentist bag. It is this beautiful one here. This is her medium size bag, I believe, medium drawstring. And I had shown you this yarn last time that I purchased to make my niece a cardigan for her birthday. And I have started the cardigan. I haven't made much progress, and I don't know that it will be ready in time for her birthday, but here it is. So this is the Anchors jacket by Petite Knit. I am using a progress keeper here. Oh, it's gone backwards. I'm using this gorgeous progress keeper by Whatnot that I picked up just before Christmas last year. It is a little reindeer, but it is pink, and it is so adorable that I thought it deserved to come out at another time of year rather than just Christmas. And it suits this project perfectly. Yes, so this is the Anchors jacket, as I said, by Petite Knit. I am not that far into it, but this is one evening's worth of knitting. So I figured now that I've finished my drifter shawl, now that I'm really only working on socks at the moment, this will be my evening knitting when I retire for the evenings. And I may be able to get it done. We shall see. I do get distracted quite easily when it comes to projects, so I may not finish it, like I said, by June, but I'll see how far I can get with it. I'm loving this yarn. This yarn is knitting up really nicely. It is the Denim Marble by Lincraft or Maker here in Australia. It is a 80% acrylic, 20% wool in the colour Rust. And I'm just trying to think which size I am making here. I think I'm making the second largest size, perhaps. Now my niece is going to be 6, but she's quite a big girl. She's growing really fast. She's not a tiny 5 to 6 year old. She looks more like a 7 to 8 year old. So I'm making a bit of a bigger size here. I must confess I did not swatch for this, and I generally don't swatch for kids' garments, which is probably terrible. But I am knitting this on the recommended needle size. This is a 4mm or a US 6 Chalgoo interchangeable needle. I'm knitting it flat, obviously, and with the 1x1 rib, which is not my favorite, but I am knitting this with combination knitting to make sure the 1x1 rib is as neat as possible, and I think it's working. I think it looks pretty consistent there. I mean, it certainly looks nice on my viewfinder. Let's see how it looks once it's done. But I am quite happy with how it's working up. But I haven't touched it now for about a week or so, so I need to get a wriggle on and pick it up again. So yes, we shall see if I get this done in time. But I am enjoying the pattern so far. It's lovely. And this yarn combination as well. This colour just makes me happy. All the pinks all the time. So yes, that's I think all I have to say about that. Those are all my current finished objects and whips. I have a few acquisitions to share with you. I've been a little bit shop happy, and been trawling Etsy for some things, and things end up in your cart and you have to buy them. It's a problem. But yes, some lovely things have arrived in the mail these past few weeks, including, I've already shown you the new project bag by So Crazy Crafter. I do have another one in the mail for summer sock camp that I'm waiting to arrive, which I think should be here in the next week or so, in time for summer sock camp to start. And other things have arrived in the post. Oh, I do actually have one more, almost whip. It's not quite a whip yet, that I might share with you. Now, my friend Hannah from Rosehip Island started a knit along for the Anna T that came out this past few weeks. It has been out for a little while, but it has just been released in English. So Hannah started a knit along for the Anna T Cal, and I couldn't resist her beautiful yarn, so I've ordered the yarn, I've caked up a couple of the balls, and I've started swatching. So I'll just show you the yarn now. This is her gorgeous merino linen. So this is merino linen, 90% Australian superwash merino, 10% linen. There's 360 meters to 100 grams, and this is the colorway Acid. And I love it. Now I'm keeping this project in another Knitting Dentist bag. It's one that I've had for a little while and I love. And I've started a swatch for this project, but again haven't picked it up in a few days now, probably a week or so. I wasn't really meeting gauge, so I thought I needed to size down, but that is how the yarn is knitting up so far, and it is beautiful. I'm loving that color and love the way it feels as well. It's a lovely yarn to work with. So whilst I haven't started this one yet, it's definitely going to happen. Now I'm swatching for this in the round, and you can see these little excess bits as I bring the yarn around to be able to continue in the round swatch. The Anna T, I believe, starts off with a bit of flat knitting, but then the majority of it is done in the round after sleeve separation, I believe. So that is the start of my swatch. I still have a little bit of time I need to spend on that. Now I'm trying to be better at swatching. I have gotten away quite well sometimes with not doing a very good swatch, and I don't recommend that because it definitely causes me some anxiety when I get worried that things might not work out if the gauge seems a little bit off. So I am determined to swatch for this one properly and make sure that I make the right choice about my needle size. At the moment I've actually sized down. I think the pattern's written for a 3.75 millimeter needle, and I'm swatching with a 3.5 just with the experience of this sweater. This was on a 3.75, and the gauge for this one was, I think, 22 stitches per 4 inches. The gauge for this one's meant to be 24. So I've gone down to the 3.5 and I'll see how I go. I need to wash it still. I need to knit a little bit more on it, and we'll see which needle size I choose for that garment. But now that is legitimately the last bit of knitting itself, but it was also, I guess, an acquisition. So that arrived in the mail a little while ago now. Not long after I recorded, I decided to participate in that knit along and order that yarn, so that's been lovely. My next acquisition is by the lovely Susan of Ash and Eve Designs. She is a dyer who is located in Queensland. I believe she's on Bribie Island, which is a beautiful part of Australia, and she is super talented. These are the beauties I could not resist in a recent shop update. So this is a fingering sport base. It's 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon, and there are 334 meters per 100 grams. So I'm keen to see how this base knits up. Now this color is Down the Rabbit Hole, The middle one is called Mercury Poisoning, and that lovely greeny blue colour. I think it's coming up very blue on my screen there. This is called Cheshire Cat. So absolutely stunning yarns, gorgeous colours. And there is Susan's label there. So yes, this update was announced, and I had a look at the colorways and I could not decide, so I had to get one of each of these three. There were actually more colors that I really wanted as well, but I needed to control myself a little bit. It was very hard to choose, really, but I felt like I've chosen a bit of everything here, perhaps. A bit of everything, not even close. There were so many beautiful options to choose from. Such beautiful yarns. So I mean, probably socks, maybe a shawl. I don't know that I'll knit them together, although they do look okay together, don't they? They look quite pretty. But yes, love these. So that is acquisition number 1. And the lovely Susan also sent me this lovely Progress Keeper and Stitch Marker set as a bit of a bonus. And I think it's a little cupcake. It's adorable. And these light bulb stitch markers, they're my absolute favourites. I pretty much only use those in terms of stitch markers. Progress Keepers, I use obviously lots of different ones. But yeah, love that. That was really generous of her. And more generosity came in the form of a lovely lavender sachet and some tags for your finished objects, which was really generous as well. And then she completely blew me away, and she actually sent something for you all. She was generous enough to include some extra little goodies for me there, and then she included this. Sorry, it is in plastic, so there's a little bit of a glare, but I don't want to take it out because I don't want to remove the packaging, because this is going to be part of a giveaway, and I'll talk about that in a minute. I forgot to mention that those yarns are from the Curiouser and Curiouser collection. It's an Alice in Wonderland themed collection that Susan has dyed up and is offering in her shop at the moment. I'll link her shop below. And this is part of that same collection. So there are 5 20-gram minis in here. And they are stunning. Their colour names are listed on the back. And there's also another little Progress Keeper and Stitch Marker set in there for the lucky winner. So I'll tell you more about this in a minute. I'll just go through the rest of my acquisitions first, and then we'll go into the giveaway details. My next acquisition is a beautiful sock set that I could not resist when I saw it pop up on my feed on Instagram. This is by Obsession Yarns, and this is in the colourway Joplin. A beautiful speckled yarn with this gorgeous plum, I think it's like a plum coloured mini. This is an 80% merino, 20% nylon, 400 meters to 100 grams. And it is so pretty. So I can't wait to cast that on. And while I was in her shop, I also picked up some extra little stitch markers and Progress Keepers. I've already shown you the dinosaur, but I also grabbed this. And it's got a little Sydney Harbour Bridge, which is upside down, sorry. Little Sydney Harbour Bridge there. And that is gorgeous. Now I thought I'd put this into my giveaway box. I need to create a box. I don't have a giveaway box. I will create a giveaway box and I'll pop this in there while I'm gathering things for our Make Along prizes, and this will be one of them. I just thought it was so super cute and pretty, and the Sydney Harbour Bridge I thought was super fitting. I'm not in Sydney, but I have lived in Sydney, and being an Australian maker, I'm very keen to promote Australian designers, Australian makers, yarn dyers and the like, so I thought I'd include this as part of a giveaway for our Make Along. But that is that. Oh, and she also included a free mini in my set. So this is in Raisin Berry. It's a chunky base which is going to be released this autumn and winter, and there are approximately 20 grams here and 20 meters to 20 grams. It's 100% merino. This is such a pretty color. Really, really pretty. So that was so super generous of Maria, to send this through with my order. So that was really lovely. And my final acquisition, yes, I think it's my final acquisition for today, is a recent order I made for more Desert Vista Dyeworks yarn, and it's the first of my summer sock camp deliveries. I've made a few orders. So this is the 2021 summer sock camp set by Desert Vista Dyeworks. It is a self-striping yarn, and I absolutely adore the colours in this. I think I've said this before, Susan's yarns are so beautifully saturated, and I really think that they are even more stunning in real life than they are on the photos that she posts. Like, I find I receive them and I just get blown away by the gorgeous colours and the tones in there. So now I have to control myself and wait until June 1st to cast these on, but they will be my June socks for sure. I cannot wait to knit these along with all my other summer sock camp participants, and I know there are quite a few of you watching, so I'm really looking forward to that in June and knitting a lot of socks with you all and casting this on. It's so exciting. I do have a bag coming. I've got some pins coming as well. I went a little bit spend happy when it came to all the summer sock camp merchandise, so I've put in a few orders. I've got a mug as well. I ordered a mug because I don't have enough mugs apparently. But yes, self-control is hard. This is gorgeous and I'm very excited to knit with it. Okay, so I think that is all of my knitting content for you today. I will just quickly touch base with you on our administrative things. We have the whip down cowl happening at the moment, as I mentioned at the start of the episode. It is running up until the end of May, end of this month. So get your entries in through Instagram and or through Ravelry. The Ravelry group again will be listed down below for you, so please enter in as many of your whips as you're working on. I love to see them. It's so inspiring to see what you pick up, and as I said, there'll be some prizes drawn in June for that knit along. If you are a yarn dyer, a maker of any sort, bag maker, stitch markers, progress keepers, project bags even, and you would like to donate anything to the podcast, please feel free to email me. I will pop my email address down below for you and let me know, and we can organise something. I love to be able to share the amazing talent that we have here in Australia, and even if you're an overseas maker and you'd like to contribute, please reach out to me as well. It's just so fun to even discover new makers in this crafting community. I would love to be able to share your beautiful products with our viewers and be able to share some of that love with this community. So As I said before, there is a make along for this episode that is separate to the whip down cowl. Now, all you need to do to enter this make along is leave any comment down below. Just let me know what you're working on. Let me know where you're from. I love knowing where you're from. It's amazing that we have so many people watching from so many parts of the world and tuning in each episode. It just warms my heart. Now, as I showed you before, this will be the prize for the make along. This will be the prize for the giveaway this week. Now, the reason why I'm running this giveaway today is because I hit 1,000 subscribers in the last 3 weeks. Actually, very shortly after releasing my last episode, I surpassed 1,000 subscribers. And then the lovely Susan sent this specifically for the podcast in addition to my order, which was so super generous of her that I just felt like I need to share the love and share this with one of you. I really want to keep it. This is totally my color palette. But I might just have to go and order myself a set because they are absolutely beautiful, these minis. So I will draw a winner before the next episode. So please do leave a comment below. As I said, it can be anything. Let me know what you're working on. Let me know where you're from, or whatever. Whatever you feel like telling me in the comments, I'd love to hear from you. It is so fun to engage with you all in the comments and to hear about what you're doing and what inspires you as well. So thank you so much for watching. I am so grateful for you taking the time to spend some time with me and listen to me talk about all the things I'm making and all the things I want to make. There are a lot of wish list items at the moment. I'm still very keen to start that Musselburgh hat, but I feel like the gift knitting is taking priority right now. So I'm focusing on that this month, and I have been very busy with family things, so I guess we're moving on to chatter now. We had Mother's Day last weekend, and that was a lovely, lovely day spent with my children, and then we saw both my mum and sister and then my husband's mum and sister as well, and it was a really lovely day. Lovely to sort of sit back and just enjoy each other's company. We had school holidays the last time I recorded, and my niece came around and we baked cookies and just had an amazing time together. That was really nice. The kids are back at school now and they're settled in quite well. So we're in term 2 of the school year now. My youngest son has restarted playing soccer for school. Last year there was really no sport with the situation as it was. So it's been really nice on the Saturday morning to take him to his soccer games again, which he really enjoys. So we're doing that on Saturday mornings. So that's quite a busy start to the weekend, and sometimes a very early start to the weekend. But he really enjoys it, and it's really fun to watch him enjoy and play. And they've actually had a couple of really good games. They've won their first 2 games, and it's a brand new team, given that he started in the brand new school at the start of this school year. So that's been a lot of fun. We had parent-teacher night last week, and parent-teacher night was actually really good. Some great feedback. Again, my youngest has settled into year 8 really well. Brand new school environment, a new group of kids, so he's doing really well. And my oldest is in year 11, so he's got work experience coming up, and that's something he's quite excited about. And it just really bewilders me that he has grown so fast, that I have this almost 17-year-old in my care, which he's not really in my care anymore, is he? Yes, he is. He'll always be my baby. They will always be my babies. So he also is driving up a storm. He's on his learner's permit at the moment. And we went to see some friends last night and had a bonfire, and he drove us home from that. So that was really great to see him get the confidence to drive and maneuver the car around. So that's been really lovely to watch. And other than that, it seems like it's work. Work has been pretty busy the last few weeks, which is another reason why I haven't had a chance to record. But we're we're sort of gearing up to a busier time again. There doesn't seem to be much of a lull, but it's great to be in employment, in stable employment in such a tumultuous time in the world, that I'm very grateful for having the opportunity to earn an income in a secure role. So aside from that, I guess I will just thank you all for watching again. Thank you for tuning in. I hope that you are having a wonderful day, a wonderful evening, that you get to knit or crochet or spend some time doing what you love. And thank you so much for tuning in and watching me today, and I can't wait to talk to you again. Take care. Bye.